we'll go ahead and record this. So you have the second half of France recorded at least. But first, I want to ask you guys about the podcast. Was anyone able to listen to it? I know a lot of people
did.
in town and stuff. Yeah. So was it helpful? Was it?
I think so, especially with Evan kind of giving some things to remember as far as order goes.
Yeah.
I found that very, very helpful.
So do we want more of that? More mnemonic devices?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was kind of thinking, is like we need some more of those little, like the first one I thought was okay, but we need more mnemonic devices and more, things to help us out. What about the length? Was it too long? Could it have
No.
been, or what do you think? Good length?
I think it was good. It wasn't too long.
Just
It was easy to listen in a car ride.
Yeah. So we should still shoot for something like all sauce would take us probably 10 minutes, but we'll try to shoot for 15 to 25 max.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good? Okay, cool. What else?
One thing that has lived in my brain rent free is you and Mary saying Muscadet and Pénante. Like that would just pop in randomly now.
Yes. Wait, Mary just joined, I think. Did you hear that, Mary? Ace?
Yes. It works.
We did
and I
it.
guarantee you it will be a question on the test.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it so good.
Yeah, and you're gonna be like, hell yeah, I got one for sure.
Okay, so we need more sing-songy ways to remember things.
Yes, all of them.
How do we think, how do we feel about the number of air horns? Do we need more? Double the number of
More.
air horns?
That was
More.
funny.
More
There's
air
never
horns.
too many.
Okay. We were talking about the podcast, Mayor. And any feedback from that?
Love it. You're so fun.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll keep them cranking them out. And next up, thank you for Melissa for getting me Loire, because that's the one we're going to record next. And then we'll do, was anyone assigned champagne? I think Matt was, maybe. So hopefully we'll get those out to you ASAP, as soon as possible. But let's talk about all sauce real quick. Okay. And just a reminder before we begin that we'll do Italy next week in person, and ship it, baby. Jeff Burtz is going to join us again for the tasting part, because he was like, I really want to know what's going on with that tasting, baby. So he's going to come because he was like, because we're also doing the blind tasting thing next Friday. So I think he just wants to kind of see what the blind tasting method is, and then we'll do that on next Friday as well. So, all right.
Hold on, I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm technically on a ride with on Thursday with a spirits ride with. Should I like call my manager and be like, what should I do? Because I don't want to miss that. But
yeah, I would, and say, is there any way that someone could cover until lunch or till noon or something, maybe?
Okay. I'll call him today.
If you miss it, and what I'm going to have to do anyway for this, we got interns, and we're trying to do like a hybrid class session. So what I could also, we're having to figure out how to record and be in person. It might be a rush to do it by next week, but if for some reason you can't get it covered, it might be that we could record in person and have it streamed or whatever.
I'll live. I just don't want to miss it, but I'll figure it
out. Okay. Well, yeah, and let me know if you need me to. Who's your manager? I gotta forget.
It's Mullen.
That's right. So let me know if you want me to chat with him or anything.
Okay.
Because this is important, because Italy is about as not quite, well, it depends on what you're more familiar with, but Italy is as expansive as France.
Okay.
At least, almost. Okay, let's talk about all sauce. Here we are over here. Oh, and I got my little printed out things. I'm going to ask y'all some questions. There we are. So someone help me out here. What is the mountain range? What is the name of the one that it's casting a rain shadow on this region?
I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Is the
Vosges. Yeah.
Vosges.
I don't, by the way, full disclosure with anything French, I don't really know if I'm saying it right, but I've heard it pronounced Vosges. Strike a pose, Vogue, Vosges mountain range, creating a nice rain shadow, right? Which means these guys get lots of sunshine and very little cloud cover, right? One thing that's kind of crazy, I'm not just travel signaling. I want to tell you guys all about my trip, but when you're this far north, it got in this later, or this, getting to summer, sunrise was at 4:52 a.m. the past 10 days in Britain and Ireland, and the sun set at like 9:30.
What?
I
Yeah.
thought you were in Spain.
No, that was in I was doing the Camino, but the Camino in Ireland. Maybe that's what you're
Oh,
thinking.
yeah.
Yeah, they randomly have one in Ireland.
That's crazy. Yeah, because when you said you were doing the Camino, and all last week people were like, no, he's doing a Ted Lasso thing. And I was like, he's in Spain. So that's so okay.
Yeah. There's Caminos in every country, I found out. It's my favorite way to travel. You hike,
Really?
you backpack, and then you get to eat and drink whatever you want. It's the way to do it.
Yeah, but I thought like the Camino Trail was in Spain.
It is the main one. There's 2 or 3 main ones there.
Okay.
So this one is the path of Saint Brendan from the 5th century, who was from Ireland, who made it to the port and then boated down to Portugal and then went to Santiago.
So in the sun came up at 4:45 in the morning.
Oh yeah, that's where I was going with that. Sorry, we got a little ADD, but yeah. So even though you're far north, the flip side of that is you're getting like whatever that is, 4 extra hours of sunlight a day. So there is a lot of ripening going on. It's just interesting to think. And the flip side of that is in the wintertime, it gets dark at 3:30 or 4, and light much later, right? Anyway, okay, so we got our Vosges mountain range right there. So we got a rain shadow effect. Let's talk about the geography here a little bit. All the good stuff, the best, most of the Grand Cru sites are down here in the O-Ren. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Anytime you say O, you see that word O, it means upper, right? High. And so this area is higher than the Bas-Rhin, the lower area of Alsace, which is counterintuitive because it's south, but it's just higher up, right? And we know in Europe we love south-facing slopes, right? And so these are still facing the southern half of these, the southern side of these are getting really good sunlight, really good drainage. This is where most of the Grand Cru action is happening, right? Up here it gets fertile and flat. And so you get a lot of, they make a lot of Cremant is a good thing to remember. Alsace very famous for Cremant, but a lot of that comes from the plains, right? You don't need, just the higher quality stuff is mainly going to the really good white wines. Our salsa for Alsace is the fact that they have Grand Cru sites. The salsa is not that annoying for Alsace, right? You got the major AOC, and then you got Grand Cru sites. Okay, let's go to the LT-GST. So you need to know that it's between the Vosges Mountains and the Rhine River. One question they'll ask you is, what is it similar to? I've seen this question a lot. And it's very similar. Remember Pfalz we learned about, we haven't learned about Germany yet, have we? But we'll talk about the Pfalz region, which is just north here. Hold on, let me go back. It's right over here in kind of Western Germany. It's very similar climate. They ask you that question. So we'll get to that later though. Okay, so we are pretty far in, right? So it is cold continental. We got the rain shadow, which is really important. So that is super dry. So it's going to remind you of Washington State, right? Or another one we'll talk about later is Argentina, is rain shadow. So super dry, a lot of sunshine, dry summers, and lower elevation in the northern part of the Bas-Rhin. Lots of white grapes here. Really the only red grape we're talking about is Pinot Noir. The most planted, I think, is Riesling, but the ones you really need to know, Riesling, Muscat, Pinot Gris, Gewürz. There are some other ones. I would spend your time memorizing the mental space for the noble grapes, which are Riesling, Muscat, Pinot Gris, and Gewürz. Alsace was once used to trade between Germany back and forth, right? World War I, they ceded Alsace to France. Did you have a question, Elliot?
No, I'm just sick.
Oh, sorry. You and me both. Sorry about that. I thought you were saying something. Okay, so it's been throughout its history, it's been German some, then French, then German, then French. So one nice thing about that is they label things in the German style by the grape. So you'll see Riesling on the label, and then you'll see Alsace. Unlike some parts of France, right, where they just put the area, the region. Okay, most are 100% varietal. Cremant is really big. And then Vintage Tardive. Can anyone, for a point, tell me what VT is?
Is that sweet?
Sometimes, yes. That could be a tricky one.
Tardif.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, late harvest grapes.
Yeah, so just think about it this. Don't be tardy to the party. Remember that Real Housewives song from 20 years ago? I need new references. Someone help me here. But tardives means tardy, I guess, late, right? So and vintage means harvest. So late harvest. They were tardy to the harvest party, right? And sometimes that just can mean that they harvest late and they're riper and they fully ferment it to 14% or 15%. But often that means it's a sweet dessert wine. It doesn't have to mean it's dessert wine, but it sometimes is, right? Okay. And then there's another one. I don't have it on here for some reason, but the Selection de Grand Noble. Can anyone help me out with that?
That one's always sweet.
Yes, always a sweetie. And it's because it's always botrytized, right?
Yes.
Add that to my little list here. But yeah, so when you see the word noble, think noble rot, right? Selection de Grand Noble. I'm going to add that right now. Hold on. That should be on my list. Shame on me. Selection. How do I spell that?
You want me to spell it out?
Yeah, just the selection. What is selection?
It's spelled the same, but just with a little tick
hat?
with the first E.
All right, I don't know how to do that, so we're just going to pretend.
Selection de Grains Nobles.
Okay, so like that.
Yeah, just like, yes.
Okay, cool. That means botrytis. Whenever you see the noble, think noble rot, right? Edelsvika. Who can help me with that?
The blend of white grapes.
Yep. This is a blend of white wines. Yeah, white grapes. Exactly. Edelsvika. Now, in a gentile is like an Edelsviker, but they're using at least half of them are one of these four, right? So these are the blends. These are the two terms to know. Okay. All right. Now these are the slides I stole from Barry. Let's see if we missed anything. We're pretty good. We're pretty good. But see how these are all labeled pretty much by the grape? Or the grape is somewhere on there, right? Okay. So these four are the Noble, Riesling, Gewurz, Pinot Gris, and Muscat. And Pinot Noir is really the only red grape you're going to find. Man, his slides look a lot better than mine. Okay. If a grape variety is stated, it's got to be 100%. We know that. And so warmer summers mean higher sugar levels, which, oh, so sometimes wines will have a little bit of residual sugar too. We cover this, huh? Look at us. Okay, so we got the AOC, Alsace AOC. Must be produced from one of the 10 grape varieties. And then we got our Grand Cru we were talking about. There's 51 Grand Cru vineyards. So kind of like, yeah, I won't compare it, but a lot of the ones we talk about today have a cru or a Grand Cru, a site-specific thing, right? You can only grow the 4 noble varieties in those. And no chaptalization. We've covered chaptalization, right, a little bit in the chapter before. You can't add sugar to increase. They're not going to ask you about that, I don't think. That's more of a German thing. Okay, and then Cremant, like I was saying, is very important. A big part of their output. Very good stuff. Okay, any questions on Alsace? That one's pretty easy, right? Relatively, compared to Burgundy. So let's get into Burgundy. Now, what type of climate are we dealing with here?
Yeah.
It's pretty far in.
Continental.
Yeah, continental. Just a little refresh of that. Stuff down here is going to be Mediterranean. This is maritime. Up here is maritime, right? Most of this stuff in here is going to be continental. Cold winters, right? Okay. Hail can be a really big problem. And it's pretty cool here in general. So you're just going to have moderate alcohol, right? Because you're not going to get quite as much ripeness, high acid, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let's get into it here. The biggest thing to remember about Burgundy, I think, is the contrast from Bordeaux, right? So in Bordeaux, what do we reward? What are we grading the wines on? Is it the land?
The land.
It's actually not. It's the
Like, the producer. Yeah. So
the land is important, of course, for the the AOC, but the producer, the negociants, the chateaus are what we rank, right?
Right.
So it's all about the people. In Burgundy, it is all about the vineyard plot, the actual space in the vineyard, because they have declared that some vineyards are better than others. Because it's so cold, we're so far north here, that every little change in the actual vineyard matters, right? Some spots get more sun. They have riper grapes. They're Grand Cru vineyards, right? Some are on the other side of a hill. They barely get any sun. We're going to make them Bourgogne level, right? They're not going to be classified as really special wines. So what we need to know is they will either, the salsa for this one is they have declared some vineyard spots or some single vineyards as Grand Cru vineyards, right? Premier Cru or Premier Cru are the ones right below it. They're also really good, but they haven't got Grand Cru status, right? And then we have village level, and then Bourgogne is the whole thing. So let me go through the LTGST, and then we'll talk about it some more. Burgundies can be kind of complicated, but we'll get through it. So we're in the eastern interior of France is our location. Terroir, when people talk about Burgundy, or if you were to say what wine region is most associated with their special terroir worldwide, you would say Burgundy, right? Because it changes a lot of variation in soils, and it really translates to the wine, right? You get earthiness in the red wines, you get special flintiness in the Chardonnays, right? Or minerality. It's got limestone soils are really important, and marl, which is another word for clay. Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. These are the two to really know. There's a little bit of Gamay. There's a little bit of Aligoté. There's one area that's known for Aligoté. If anyone can tell me that, you get 2 points. You could get a question on that, but the main is called Bouzeron, by the way. But the two to really know, if you see a bottle of white wine and it says Bourgogne on it, it's going to be Chardonnay, pretty much, right? Same thing with Pinot Noir with red wine. Some of the most coveted complex dry red wines and white wines in the world.
unless it says Melon de Bourgogne, which is not Burgundy.
It is not. Where
Yeah,
belong to
or a
Bourgogne?
Chardonnay. It's not Chardonnay or Burgundy.
No.
It is Loire
Yeah.
and it is Muscadet.
From where?
And
Muscadet
Pay
from Pay Nantes. Put your
But
hand
that
in
is
the air.
really confusing.
Very confusing. Yeah. Because I think that grape originated in Burgundy, the Muscadet grape. So they call it, it's the melon shaped grape from Burgundy, right? But it's in Loire. Clear as mud. So we got Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and there are still negociants. So I don't think they're going to ask you about this, but just a general interest thing. Back in Napoleon's time, so it used to be the firstborn son would inherit everything, right? So there'd be a 100-acre plot of land, and the firstborn son would get it all, leaving secondborns like me screwed, right? But they changed that. I think it was either Napoleon's time or maybe French Revolution, so that it was split up evenly between all your kids when you died, right? So then you got 6 kids. That 100-acre plot is divided into 12.5-acre plots, right? And that kept happening. So there's a lot of people that own just a little sliver of vineyards in Burgundy, right? So negociants will still buy from these little producers to make their own a bigger wine, right? Any questions there? I've never seen that as a question, but it's interesting to know. That's why there's so many more AOCs. It's kind of it's confusing. Let's see what Barry had to say about this. Yeah, the smaller little plots will sometimes sell to negociants, right? And one vineyard may have multiple owners and 80 different appellations. All right. So we were talking about this a little bit, but the Grand Cru is the highest quality. If you see something that says Grand Cru, it's very expensive usually, right? And a Premier Cru would be right. I don't know why it's not listed here. Then we got our village communes, right? AOCs. And then we have our regional AOCs. Okay, cool. Let's go. This is what I was talking about earlier. So the best vineyard sites tend to be this sweet spot right here. This little hill, this little slope is facing south, right? It's just like growing a garden, right? When you're picking the best spot for your vegetables in your backyard, some spots are better than others. This one might get more sunlight, so you plant your tomatoes over here, right? So you get the best sites over the years. I've figured out these are the Grand Cru sites. These are awesome. Premier Cru or Premier Cru might be up here and sometimes over here on either side of the Grand Cru site. And then you've got your regional Bourgogne. They're going to be less ripe, kind of more, simpler, perhaps, right? All right. All make sense? So now let's get into it a little more. Let's talk about, excuse me. Oh boy. Let's talk about Chablis.
That looks like a lung.
Oh, there you go. How can we help that how can we remember this?
I don't know, but tell me that doesn't look like an anatomy thing. I saw that, like, dang.
Yeah, it looks like a pancreas, like something that you would remove from yourself. I feel like
We don't want it.
Kidney.
get this Chablis. What'd you say, Jessica?
Said it looks like my third kidney.
Oh yeah. All right. There's some way to remember some facts about Chablis with the third kidney. We'll have to figure that out. Okay, so Chablis. What are we known for? What type of wine in Chablis?
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay. Big oaky Chardonnay?
No.
No way, Jose. Usually unoaked. Sometimes it have a little oak, but it would be usually neutral, and you're not going to get a lot of oak, right? This is a little bit further north. If we go back to our map, 10 slides ago. There it is. Oops. Chablis over here. Look at it. Look at that. It's flirting with Champagne over here. Maybe they'll get together one day. I don't know. It's like an hour from the Côte d'Or, right? So it's pretty far north and cold. So what does that mean? Are the wines riper or not?
Not.
They're not. They're more acidic, right? They're very bright. So if you see a bottle that says Chablis, you know that it's Chardonnay from this part of France. If it says Premier Cru, then you know it's a step above, right? Where these are the Premier Cru vineyards right here. All these kind of like orange ones, right? And then you've got your big Grand Cru vineyard, which is even more annoyingly split up into 7 little sub AOCs, right? They're all named. So you've got Les Clos, you've got, let's see, what else do we have here? There are probably 2 or 3 you need to be able to recognize. Those are things you need to be able to recognize and not necessarily be able to know all 7, right?
I feel like Le Clos is the main one, right? That we usually hear about.
Les Clos and Vadacir is another one. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
But Clos de Bois, the California wine, they stole Clos from Chablis. They were just there is a play on that, right? We did that a lot back in the day to make it sound fancy. Okay, so Grand Cru, Premier Cru, Chablis. Let's do a little deep dive into the Côte d'Or, the Golden Slopes. So we've got up here the Côte de Nuit, right? Nuit North. It's in the north. Côte de Nuit North, and it's Pinot Noir based area, right? We grow in the Côte de Nuit. These are the 2 most important appellations, so to speak. You can almost definitively say that for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir in the world. They're the most famous, right? You got the Côte de Nuit, and you got the Côte de Beaune right here. And we remember that Côte de Beaune is predominantly Chardonnay because a Beaune is white, right? Your Beaune is white, so that's going to be white wine. Although you can grow Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in both of these areas, and they do, and some of them are, even Grand Cru sites. In general, it's easy to remember, or it's good to remember that Côte de Beaune is going to be Chardonnay, or is more famous for Chardonnay, and the Côte de Nuit, North, Noir, Pinot Noir, right? Okay, let's go into a more detailed map here. Now, if you just see this word, Bourgogne, that means the wine could be from anywhere, right? And even this guy, this Domaine Martin, very helpfully puts Pinot Noir on the label. Sometimes they don't do that. If it's just red wine, it says Bourgogne on it, it's going to be Pinot Noir, right? And it's probably going to be a little simpler, lighter. It's going to be good. I love Bourgogne, right? But then you might see a bottle with a village commune level name on it, Gevrey-Chambertin up here, right? The more specific you get in Burgundy, the higher the quality, usually the higher the price. Then we go into the CSW's terrible map. I hate this map. It's depressing. There's so many things on this map. But I would say there's a couple things to be able to recognize for test questions, right? You want to be able to know this name, Gevrey-Chambertin, Figeon, I think it's pronounced Figeon, I'll check that. Vougeot, and Vosne Romanée. Has anyone heard of DRC? Domaine Romanée Conti. It's like the most expensive Pinot Noir in the world from here. And then Nuit Saint George, this is the town that we named the Côte de Nuit after. So if you kind of recognize those, hopefully, and you could get a north to south question, but the way they would probably do it is they would name a couple of these and then a couple of Beaune properties. And the big names to know from the Beaune are Alox Corton. This is the one that you can do both red and white. They both have a Grand Cru sites for both Pinot and Chard. You want to be able to recognize Pommard. Think about the Pommard clone. You ever heard of that clone? Everyone talk about, oh, it's Pommard clone. It's a Chardonnay clone that people have planted in California or Oregon or whatever. That's based off a clone of Chardonnay from this commune. And then anytime you see the word Montrachet, Mantra Chardonnay, basically, Montrachet, Polini Montrachet, Chassagne Montrachet, that means we're in the Beaune in Chardonnay. So that annoying, and by the way, most questions aren't this hard, but they're going to get a couple of questions on the test that are this hard. Which one of these are ordered, correctly north to south? And then one of the answers will be Fijian, Geoffroy Chambertin, Pomard, and one of the Montrachets.
Yeah.
This is an intimidating slide. It sucks. But this is the worst of it, right?
I have a question. If somebody says Corton, is that always like shorthand for Alex Corton?
That is a good question.
But do you ever hear people just say like Corton? Like we have a Mollard from Corton.
So I wonder, it might be the Grand Cru Vineyard Corton without the Alux. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with Burgundy as I need to be. So let's find that out.
I don't know. I could pull a bottle and we could see for ourselves.
I think we should probably do that.
I like that.
Yeah, maybe at the next class we need to actually investigate what that's all about.
Yeah, I'm good. Can you have that by Thursday by chance?
Right. Next Thursday? Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting in now.
Cool. That would be great. Okay, so so one other thing to mention is there are 33 Grand Cru vineyards in all of Burgundy, right? So you have one in Chablis, one we talked about with the 7 sub parcels. 24 of them are in the Côte de Nuit. Oops. And so we have, what's the difference? 24 plus 1 is 25. So 8 of them are in the Beaune.
And one is in Chablis, right?
Yeah, 1 in Chablis, 24 in the Nuit, 8 in Beaune. Okay. So here's Maison Champy. We're still going strong with that, right? Is it folio still?
No. So, I mean, we still have the rights to it, but nobody else has picked it up. We're hoping that happens soon. Nobody's picked up this or Ogier.
Fiddle faddle.
Yeah.
Maybe I should become an importer of just champagne.
Right.
There we go. Well, it's still a good example for us to. Oh, does someone have their hand? Oh, I raise my own hand. Anytime I do this, my stupid hand will raise. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what that was.
It's just I accidentally updated Zoom or something. Now every time I do this, my hand raises. It's just me self-doubting. I'm just a lot of self-doubt. I got a question for you, Con.
I really want the attention, Connor.
Watch this. Well, now it's not gonna do it.
Liar.
Wait, hold on. Just give it a second.
Whatever you say, Connor. You're a
Hey. Man. Maybe these jazz hands. All right. Well, it did it before. You saw
Maybe.
it. Damn it. Oh well.
We have the right to interrupt you if it happens while you're mid-lecture and then it just pops back up.
You do, yeah. You don't even have to raise your hand. Of course, now it doesn't work. All right, let's get back into it. The Burgundy label. So if you see this Bourgogne Pinot Noir. They're nice. They put Pinot Noir on the label. That means it could be from anywhere, right? But this one, when we used to consistently have the Maison Champy Beaune. That is a commune level. So it's a step up. It's from the commune of Beaune right here, right? That also, here's a bonus question. VL Vigne. What does that mean? Do you even know? That's not part of the Burgundy chapter, but it's part of the France chapter. It means old vines. Yeah. I just keep on wanting to. Okay.
This scary.
Yeah. I want to worry about that until the very end. And I don't know. Those are like do more harm than good, I think. They're scary, like you said. Okay, then we see a Premier Cru Geoffroy Chambertin bottle right here. And The nice thing about this is the bottles will say Premier Cru, or they'll do that one, the number one with the ER. You know, that means Premier Cru. And so it'll be labeled such.
So you'll see that in Compass sometimes because we can only fit so many characters in a title. So if it says just one ER,
Yeah.
in fact, you could just search that when you're adding product so you could see all of the Premier Cru that we have, which is minimal, but they exist.
Yeah, so your next sample request form, just type in one.
That's right. That's right. Just say, ship it.
Ship
to
it,
my house.
baby.
To my house.
Ship it. And I'll strike that from this recording, of course.
That's right. That would never happen.
Yeah, no way, Jose. Then let's talk about the Grand Cru. You'll see Charm Chambertin, and it might say Grand Cru on the label. That doesn't always happen. They usually will say that when it is Grand Cru, but you could just, maybe, you know, maybe you're supposed to know. Okay. These are berry slides here. I think we covered most of this. Y'all stop me if you need. And the bone is known for white wine, like the color of your bone, right? 8 Grand Cru Burgundy vineyards. And 7 of these are white wine. Okay. Okay, Ladoy Serenity is, that's how I always read that one, is the first commune, Alex Cortan, Pommard's only the red wine, really? Volnay only red wine.
Connor, real quick.
Yes.
I apologize because I've had to answer phones twice. I'm covering for Kara today also, and it's been a very crazy week. So I apologize if I keep having to like answer something real quick.
Oh yeah, no problem.
But not all of her calls will come through too. So sometimes, yeah, it just doesn't say who it is. So
Fun Thursday. Big order day too for your accounts and hers. Yeah, no worries. Okay. Oh, this is what Barry says. The important Grand Crus are Charlemagne, Cortan, Charlemagne. Oh, that answers your question, maybe, Mary, that you'll see Grand Crus just Cortan versus Alex Cortan's the commune. That's it.
Okay.
And Montrachet and Betard Montrachet. Anytime you see Montrachet, you know it's a really badass Chardonnay.
Yes.
My trash cans, put my legs up. Okay, then we got the Côte Chalonnaise. We need to know a couple things about the Côte Chalonnaise. I think Barry almost puts too much information on this one, but it's a little further south, right? In the north, you get limestone, which is great for Chardonnay. Limestone becomes a little less prevalent down here. Quality, basically, all this to say, let me go back. I need just a better big map than like I had in the beginning. 20 million slides later. Most prized stuff right here in the Côte d'Or, right? The further south you get, the terroir changes a little bit. Less prized in Côte Chalonnaise. And then you get to the Macon, named after Mary's hometown, we talked about, named after Macon, Georgia. Mackinac. And you get a lot of good value stuff, and there's a couple areas we'll talk about here, but the best stuff up here. I don't know if that was worth going back for, but I like to see things. Okay. So no Grand Crus down here in the Côte Chalonnaise. For some reason they will ask you questions about these communal AOCs. Roulis, Bouzeron, that's what I mentioned earlier. That's the one AOC that's all aligote. Mercury, this is the most important one. Givry and Montigny. There is a question they're going to try to get you with Givry, Givry. I need to figure out how to pronounce that correctly, but Givry versus Gevry Chambertin that we just talked about, the village in the Nuit, right? They will ask you which one of these is in the Côte de Nuit. And they're going to put Givry to trick you. But that's a Côte Chalonnaise. So these are good value, good wines, but not the Grand Crus.
That's mean.
Take that, Chardonnay. I'll say it to their face too. I don't care. And Ethan, who's no longer with Trincaro, but he came up with a little red beans make good Mondays to remember this. North to south, I guess. Rouly, Bouzeron, Mercury, Givry, and Montagny. I'd focus on learning, memorizing the wheat and bone stuff first. And then we got the Macanet. It's the southern end, no Grand Crus, mainly Chardonnay. They grow a little Gamay down here. Gamay is the great grape of what other area?
Beaujolais.
Beaujolais makes great Gamay. So we've got, is that a new one? Maybe that's a new one.
Yeah, stuck.
They're in there forever now. So we got the Macon AOC. This is your $10, $15 wines, really good. And then a step up from that's Village level, right? The two that we need to know, you need to be able to and they're going to ask you a question about Puy Foussé. Puy Foussé and Saint Veron. Puy Foussé, really great Chardonnay. So is Saint Veron. They're next to each other and they're delicious, really high quality Chardonnay, almost Premier Grand Cru level. They're really good, right? They're going to ask you the question we talked about in Loire. What's the Sancerre area that looks kind of like this?
Fume.
Puy Fume. Remember Fume Blanc from California. They're going to ask you which one of these areas produces Chardonnay. And they're going to put three Sauvignon. They're going to put a couple other areas. They're going to put Puy Fume and then they'll put Puy Foussé. And you have to remember Foussé is the Chardonnay. Or they'll do it the opposite way with Fume. All right. And we had those really good wines, Von Avig. I don't know if we still have them or not, but those are really
What did you
good.
say it was?
Von Avig, so VINS.
This is crazy that you were asking this. I have been researching that all night because this is very much a sad subject, y'all, but we have not ordered it and there's no clear reason why. And I was asking, like, historically what might have happened. And so anyway, late last night, I was like running reports on this. I mean, and I'll be ordering it. So we will be getting that soon.
Oh, that's great.
We haven't had it in 5 years.
Yeah, back when I was pounding the pavement, those are in my bags a lot because these are really good wines.
Wait, that's the only Saint Veron that we have had, right?
Yes.
My knowledge, yeah.
Yes.
So this is also a sidebar, Mary, but like when Christina and I were studying for the WSET 2, Connor, we had to have it because I pulled a bottle that you told me to pull to taste this against Stag's Leap Chardonnay a year ago, and this wine was incredible.
We had it in stock, but we haven't ordered it from the supplier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what I was trying to like dig into. And I was asking like anybody that had kind of been around was it DQ'd? And the answer was nobody really had a good answer. So I will be ordering it. So we will
really
have
good
it.
news.
There's three, but a Puy Foussé, a Saint Veron, and then there's one other. And so I'll let y'all know because we'll be getting those soon.
Wine was amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. And I've never had them, but it's so weird. The supplier emailed me yesterday and she's like, what's going on with this? And I'm like, well, if I know. So that's crazy. So anyway, so we will have these. That's really cool that y'all to have the endorsement because I was like, I don't know anything about it.
That's really great news. I thought we got a couple of those that it's kind of like pre-pandemic stuff. Pandemic hit and we shifted to like, let's hang on for dear life, So I think a lot of wines like this kind of fell to the wayside for us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, hopefully we can get some of these other ones. We've got like we probably got like 5 or 7 that I'm hoping we can start reordering again. I think they were all just kind of put on the back burner.
Yeah. in like some of our like I think we were planning to do some of these side meetings with the group to study this stuff. It would be really fun to, again, like just to me, putting this knowledge to the things that is applicable to how we sell helps so much.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks ago, everything that we tasted and then applying it as we were talking about it, it just made it all like feel so much more applicable.
It clicks, right?
Instead of just like retaining knowledge, it was like, oh, like this is this, and this is kind of the price point, and that makes sense. I don't know.
Well, you got auditory learning, you've got visual learning, and then you got tactile learning. And so tasting the wine is tactile, right? Then you're like, oh, now I've got 3 bullets for in the chamber. That sounds lame, but you know what I mean? There's 3 different ways.
It helped.
Yeah, being able to correlate it to like certain products that we sell, though, also is just very like convenient as far as being in the market.
Yeah.
But even just tasting that Saint Veron against, you know, like the Stag's Leap, like was just so wildly different. But it also like just it has that physical connection.
Well, and then if somebody says like, oh, I have in my bag something from Saint Veron, you already know, like that's a Chardonnay. This is the flavor profile. Instead of somebody being like, I don't really know even what country that's from.
Yeah.
But you like totally can like connect it. I don't know. To me, like it's like really helpful. Like when we get to California, we're all going to be like, oh, Atlas Peak, Howell Mountain.
Yeah.
We'll know everything because we have a book that is vast and we know Napa so well. So anyway, it's cool.
True. It's so true. Awesome. That's great news about that. And speaking of wines, we just tried last 2 weeks ago a little Beaujolais. Remember our little Moyard, our little baby boy Beaujolais was so delicious, wasn't it?
Damn good.
Do we need a quick break? This is probably the halfway point for today, or do you want to keep going through Beaujolais?
Going.
We'll go through Beaujolais and then we'll take a quick break.
Okay.
We're not too far off from the end of the day. So Beaujolais, famous for Gamay. Let's do the LTGST and then we'll go through some slides. So it's between the Macon and Lyon. They're not going to ask you that, but yeah, it's just south of some people consider it a part of Burgundy, but it's just so different and stylistically and grapes and everything else that it's basically its own area, right? It's warmer than Burgundy. The soils change, right? Remember the soils in Burgundy are limestone and marl, aka clay. These get all granitic, the granite soils. All the best action happens in the north. The 10 crus of Beaujolais are in the north. In the south, they're really fertile, which is good as far as production quantity, but not as good on quality, right? So that's where Beaujolais Nouveau comes from. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Gamay all day. If it's white, it's probably going to be Chardonnay. I'm dying. Or Aligote, maybe a little Pinot Noir. And then we'll talk about this in a minute too. Beaujolais AOC is a dry red. There are 39 village, and then there's the Nouveau style. Carbonic maceration, I believe we talked about this a little bit a few chapters ago, right? Yes.
Book says 38 villages.
Oh, really?
Don't know if that matters, but
next time, could you put your hand up?
I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Never mind. Well, I wonder what of them. So I've got the 2022 book. I wonder if something got declassified.
Again, I don't know if I'm being nitpicky, but I know that you said sometimes they change. Like,
no, it's fine. We'll change it because Melissa needs it changed right now.
Scott, do what I say.
No, thanks for that. There's typos all over this thing, so always stop me. Carbonic maceration. You guys remember the drill on that one? It's a special type of. It's pre-fermentation. It's the one where you blanket the tank with CO2, right? And then the berries will start fermenting themselves, and it gets up to about 2% ABV, and then you go through the regular fermentation process. What that means for Beaujolais is it almost feels a little spritzy, even though there's no bubbles, but it feels spritzy. It can kind of create this bubblegum or banana taste sometimes. And people use carbonic on Pinot Noir and some other grapes as well, but it's really cool and really delicious on Beaujolais. They also call it whole berry. The salsa for Beaujolais are just the 10 Cru Beaujolais. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, so carbonic maceration will make it fruitier, lower the tannin, and give it bright red fruits. AKA make it really delicious. I love carbonic maceration. Have you guys ever been to Thanksgiving dinner and someone brings out the Beaujolais Nouveau? Is it even, that was a tradition of years past.
No, I think that's still going on.
Yeah, it used to be that on the third Thursday in every liquor store, like my first year in 2008, people would buy 150 cases of George Dubuff for every little liquor store, even the little bitty ones, because it's $10 and everyone would buy it for Thanksgiving. And it is literally this coming Thanksgiving, people will be drinking 2023 Beaujolais Nouveau. It's the first wine from any French harvest. Basically, it's obviously unoaked, it's fresh, it's brand new. It's really good.
And it goes well with like all the like super fatty Thanksgiving foods.
Yeah, it's gonna be carbonic, so it's gonna be super fruity, but low tannin, so it goes well with food right then. Okay. Yeah, 98% Gamay in Beaujolais. If you see a bottle on a list or in a store that just says Beaujolais, that could be from anywhere here, right? Anywhere. The village levels, the next level up, they're usually the areas surrounding the crus, a little further north. Down here is that fertile flat plain we were just talking about. This is where most of the Nouveau comes from. So less concentration because it's nice and wet, but it makes a lot. And then if you see a AOC like Fleury, that's a cru. So all of these are crus. The ones, actually, we got a slide on it. I thought that Barry might say which ones to know. But I would say if you have to know, be able to recognize 4, you should know Moulin Avant, Fleury, Morgon, and those are the 3.
Rui?
And Rui. Yeah, where did that go?
No, Brewy.
Rui, sorry, yeah. Rui. Those are probably the most famous. But try to kind of just be able to spot these if you can. These.
Okay.
Yes, Melissa, thank you for raising your hand.
Think Floor. I may have said this in W set too. I'm having deja vu, but think Floor from Harry Potter loves Gamay at Thanksgiving.
There you go. Perfect. Fleur de la Cour. Come on, Mary.
Married to Bill.
Who? Listen, I gotta say, honest about Harry Potter, it like just missed me. Like I never, everybody was like reading it in college, and I wasn't reading a lot in college outside of the textbooks, and so it's like it just missed me. So anyway, I watched the movies for like the first time like 2 years ago, so I know like the main character.
It's
Harry.
never too late. It's never too late.
I know Harry.
I know Harry. I can spot him. I'm lost after that.
There's Harry. There's the ginger. There's who else we have?
Oh, Hermione. I know, and I like her.
Very approved.
Right, that was a niche thing then. That doesn't apply to all.
Yeah.
This is an important aside.
Yeah, it is. Because now we will always remember that Fleur de la Cour, who was the French transfer student, basically, in book 4, drinks Beaujolais, Cru Beaujolais, for Thanksgiving. In our book, we've got the Maison Envoyer. I can't say it. We don't have them in stock for a while, but we have a Moulin Vaughn and a Morgon. And I think those are the only two Cru Beaujolais that we have. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor. They're really good though. And they're usually under $30 and they're awesome.
I think that's correct. Yeah, that's correct as of now. Yes.
Dying. Oh yeah, so we were pretty much synced up with Barry, who says you need to remember Fleury, Moulin Vaughn, Morgon. These are some of the best values in the wine world. Okay, cool. Let's take a quick break. And the good news is we're going to be done way before 10 today. Unless we get on a classic aside, which I predict because they're fun. But let's meet back and how about 9:05-ish? Cool.
Okay.
All right, let's get it cracking again. Let's talk about the valleys around. Okay. So here we go, up here. We got the Northern Rhone and the Southern Rhone, who really, it's kind of like the Loire. They're kind of like two different regions, but we tie them together because they're both on the Rhone River, right? Northern Rhone, a lot steeper vineyard sites on the river. Nice, warm, and Mediterranean down here in the Southern Rhone. This is more continental getting into Mediterranean, right?
What's the middle Rhone?
I don't know. Total loser, doesn't get anything.
It's a really big piece of it.
I know. What is going on right there?
Just-
I'm writing down that question. Why does France hate the Middle Rhone?
Middle Earth.
It's like the middle child.
I know. Like me, you get a lot of issues when you're not given an AOC at birth. I'm still fighting for my AOC in this world.
Raise his hand.
Yeah. Watch it not work. Yeah, of course. It worked for my older brother, I'll tell you that much. Okay, so we are just south of Beaujolais in the Northern Rhone and Southern Rhone, south of that, and the Middle Rhone, we all know, is not important. It doesn't deserve love. Northern Rhone's more continental climate, steep hillsides. Southern Rhone's more Mediterranean. In the north, we are dealing with Syrah, Viognier, Marsanne, Roussanne. In the south, we're talking about Grenache, Mourvedre, Syrah, Cinsault, and that's supposed to be Carignan. I'm going to fix this right now. Hold on. It's driving me crazy.
Hold on. The northern is continental and the middle is Mediterranean.
The southern, yeah. Hold on. Let me get back into that.
I mean, excuse me. I'm sorry. We were talking about the middle, and so I said it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, actually, let's go back. So, and it makes sense, right? Because we're still kind of in the middle of the continent. So this is still more continental, but it's starting to get warmer and more Mediterranean down here. This is very Mediterranean. And someone help me for points. Remind me, what does Mediterranean mean as far as, is it wet, is it dry, and when, what season?
Cold, wet winters, right?
Yes, exactly. Cold, wet winters, warm, dry summers, dry harvest. Mediterranean grapes were basically evolved in Mediterranean climate. They, came to be in Turkey and around this area. So they grow perfect. This is what they're made for, right? They'll grow other places, but this is perfect grape growing along the French Riviera right here, right? All Mediterranean, perfect weather for grapes. Okay, let's go back in. We'll go into, this is everything in one page, but we'll go into this a little bit in greater detail. The Mistral, can someone tell me what the Mistral is in the Southern Rhone?
The winds.
The wind, yeah. This is crazy. So I've been to shutting up to pop, not to brag, but I only bring it up because I'm going to tell you guys every place I've been. Don't worry throughout this stuff. But the Mistral is nuts. And when you're in Chateau de Pop, it's blowing on you constantly. I thought it was just, something to learn. But if you're standing and you're walking into Avignon, the town, it's just blowing you constantly, day and night. It's crazy. And so it really has an effect on the grapes, right? It kind of cools them down. This would be hot there. Gallet, can someone help me out with that? What's a gallet?
There's little rocks.
Yeah. And some of them can be really big. These rounded, it used to be a riverbed. So it's these rounded rocks, and they're all over the place too when you walk around there. What do we grow in Condrieu? You can help me. And Chateau Gruyere. That's a toughie.
Is it Viognier?
Yes, it is.
I remember that because of the Gruyere and Viognier.
Yeah. Oh. Gruyere makes Viognier. Gruyere makes Viognier.
Close.
Something like that. We'll workshop that. I need a keyboard and some headphones, and I'll be working, tip-tapping away all afternoon. Cornas and Tavel. We'll get into those here in a second. Let's talk about So the Rhone in general is the second largest producer of AOC wine after Bordeaux. Lots of wine coming out of here, right? We got the north up here, right? And then you got the southern Rhone and that poor little middle down here. But the north, the most famous one might be Côte Rôtie, aka the Côte means hill or slope. Rôtie means rotisserie, roasted, the roasted slope. So what are we growing up here? Yeah, dang it. Yes.
That wasn't why I raised my hand.
Okay. What you got?
So this, okay. I'm looking at this baby little map and we're talking about, and how do you pronounce it? Côte Rôtie.
Yep.
How big in miles is that little thing in real life?
I don't know the exact answer, but it is, I think the whole northern Rhone, I think the book says 41 miles or something, right?
Like for all of Northern Rhone. So that little thing is probably like 2 miles.
It's very small, yeah.
Okay. That really wasn't important. I was just curious.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that completely. Let's see, Rôtie.
I'll Google it myself.
Would you share the results with us?
Yes.
That would be great. But to that point, it's in general very small, right, up here. And so sometimes what we've noticed is the most coveted wines are the northern regions. I'm not saying this right. So this is the most northern region where Syrah can ripen. It's too cold north of here, right? So this is finally when you get to a place where Syrah can ripen enough. And that makes it really interesting because it's got a lot of acid, and then for a Syrah, right? So, and that same thing happens in Bordeaux, right? Where Cabernet, that's kind of the northernmost area that Cabernet will ripen. Otherwise, you go up to the Loire, it's too cold. And there's something, I've just made that connection that sometimes those are the most coveted examples of the grape is when they're in the northernmost place that they'll ripen in France. So very, not a lot of production, but a lot of really coveted Syrah coming out of here, right? And Viognier. Condrieu is just a Viognier area. And then you got Saint-Joseph. Hermitage is a name you need to be familiar with. This is really high quality Syrah right here. And then you got the kind of lesser area that makes more, Crozes Hermitage right here. And then you got Cornat. Okay. Any questions on that? That's the north. Syrah, and then Viognier and Marsanne-Roussanne sometimes. They're kind of, Viognier is like kind of a bigger wine usually. Lower acidity and more floral. And then we get down here to the south, and you got your big area, the Côte de Rhone, right? Big bread basket. That's why we got Côte de Rhones for $10. A lot of wine being produced here. And you're still growing Syrah all over the place. But then what other grape are you growing a lot of? The second biggest grape, or the biggest grape for the Southern Rhone is, they call it Garnacha in Spain.
Grenache.
Grenache. This is welcome to Grenache country, right? And then Syrah, they blend, they're all about blending here. Because Syrah gives you lots of nice black fruits and pepper and stuff. Grenache gives you a lot of strawberry, red fruits, right? Put them together, it's PB&J. They're delicious. You got Gigondas, Baccarat. Let's see. But the big one to know is Châteauneuf-du-Pape. There it is. Yeah. And Châteauneuf-du-Pape literally means the new house of the Pope, right? It's the Pope's new house. So what happened in the 13th century, 14th century, 1300s, the Catholic Church split up and temporarily moved its headquarters, the papacy, to Avignon in southern France. So that's the new chateau is the house. The new neuf is the new chateau of the Pope, right? And makes some of the best wines in the Southern Rhone. So it's its own AOC.
And is it 100% Grenache?
That's a great question because it's like 13 approved grapes in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. They're usually Grenache led. It's usually Grenache Syrah, maybe one more, and that's it. But there are 13 allowed grapes.
Got it.
Someone double check. It might not be 13. It might be 11.
Oh, here they are. Yeah. Senso. Yeah. Mourvedre. Yeah. There's a ton. Roussillon. Good
The
gosh.
book says a hearty red blend of 13 or 18, depending on how they are counted, which
Yeah.
is a little confusing.
Just a little
Right?
bit, just a smidge.
It's like, how else would you count it?
Yeah.
Also, and like 13 and 18 aren't close to each other.
I know.
Right. Are we counting syllables? Are we counting vowels?
Alternative facts. I like it. Here's a little picture of the roti, the roasted slopes, very steep, some of the steepest, and these are Galets right here.
Mm.
And that thing would just be blowing in the wind constantly because of Mistral. Okay. Big red wine areas for both. If you see Côte d'Aron, you know it could be from any of that big area. Usually Syrah, Grenache. Village is like the next level up. If you're one of the special villages, you can put Village on that. So it's usually 15 to 20 bucks or whatever. And you got the Pope's new crib, the Chateau de Pape, right? Usually Grenache dominant, really good big wines.
But maybe 13 to 18 grapes.
Perhaps. Who's counting? It changes. I wonder if that means the 5 white grapes, perhaps? Are they including the white grapes that are?
Yes.
Could be.
Doesn't elaborate.
It's very elusive, this book, sometimes.
One time I presented the Macon Village to an account, and I just started working here. First time I think I ever showed French wine with Tony Molinari, and I called it Macon Villages. And he never let me live it down. If you feel bad about yourself, I did that with confidence.
Nice. They're like, is this from Middle Georgia? Because we don't want to.
Right. Right.
I was with Tony, so Tony made fun of me in the account, in the presentation.
Oh, wow.
Called
He
me out.
probably only knows because he did the same thing. You're fine.
Right. Right. It's fine.
It's fine. But now we know it's Macon.
Macon Village.
Okay. Full body, viscous, and very aromatic. We covered that, right? Grenache Blanc is the biggest white grape down here. It's a mutation of Grenache. There are a lot of things. They're rarer, but they're really good. For Southern Rhone whites. Like that Brunel we used to have. I don't know if we still, that white wine they had was really good.
In Ogier, that's the other really big one from their own.
Yeah,
That La Jacine, best for the price.
it's delicious. And you can see here, they've got the Village level, so it's a little higher level, right? A little,
So good.
and then they have, oh, this one's also Village, never mind, but both very good. And I think this one is 50-50 Grenache Syrah. I think it used to be, at least. Back when I was out there banging the streets.
Back in my day.
You could throw a Grenache grape clear across those mountains back in my day. All right. I think we covered all that. Okay. They could ask you which of these Northern Rhone appellations only grows Syrah, and you say Cornat. They'd be real jerks if they did that. But that'd be an example of a really hard one. Hermitage. Okay, I think we covered, whoops. So here are the 13. Oh yeah, so some of these are white too. So I don't know what the other 5 are.
I'm guessing it's because they're like, oh, it could be the noir variation or the gris or the blanc
Yeah.
or the rosé variation.
Oh yeah, okay.
They're rude for that.
Yeah.
I know, what the heck?
Because we're not confused enough.
Yeah,
France sucks.
that's exactly what it's got to be, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 extra in the parentheses. Okay. Okay. Know that Tavel is a really famous rosé AOC. A little more expensive here. You're like $30 plus. Vin du Naturel. Think port when you see this word, French port, right? It's fortified before fermentation is complete, right? Just like we do in port. So higher alcohol plus a lot of extra residual sugar left over because we cut that fermentation in half with the brandy, right? Muscat de Baume de Venise AOC and Resto. Resto is usually dry red. So the sweet wines, oh, sorry, this one says Resto AOC for sweet wines, but Resto, I just had one the other night that was dry. I don't know why they're lying to us. Let's look that one up. Maybe it can be both. The sweet wines, they love asking questions about France, about which one of these is sweet and not. And they would throw in Muscat de Baume de Venise and maybe one from the Loire, like Court de Cham, maybe a Sauterne, and then one, oh, sorry, so which one of these is not sweet, and then one that's a dry wine. So it's good to be able to recognize the sweet wines. There's a bottle of Tavel. You see this one all over. And it's good and expensive. All right, we got Claret de D, Cremant de D, and Coteau de D. This little eastern region here. I don't know how much you're going to need to know about these. And we got Castier de Nîmes, so a little southwest of everything, but other good quality white, red, and rosé. These are good values too. Vinto is really good. That's the one you're going to see the most, and then Castier de Nîmes. Okay, let's move on to the Languedoc and Provence. So we've got Languedoc here. These are a little bit easier. To Mary's earlier point, we're talking about California. If you sold a lot of Gerard Bertrand, these become a lot easier for us because we've got a lot of them. Here's Provence. Okay, we're in the south of France. Low rolling hills. This is that perfect Mediterranean climate. We were saying everything's wetter, colder winters, but lots of sunny, dry summers. Really good for red grapes. Syrah, Merlot, Cab, Grenache. They grow a lot of stuff down here. You need to know the Limoux sparkling, which is easy for us if you sell the Gerard Bertrand Limoux sparkling, right? The Limoux. Banyul, that's also Gerard's got the Banyul, which is another Vin du Naturel, right? Port style wine. And rosé, of course. Roll. What does roll is? 2 points for anyone who can tell me what this is a synonym of. That's a toughie. They could ask you maybe. I don't know. It's Vermentino. And we grow it on the island of Corsica, which they also group in this. And then Bandol is some of the most coveted, expensive reds and rosé. They make rosé based off Mourvedre, which is really good. So sorry, let's go into these with berry slides here. Oh, look at these old vines here. Little trunks, little tree trunks.
Wow.
Beautiful. So Syrah, Grenache, Carignan, Merlot, Cab. And a lot of them are making, like Gerard, you could say, are making a lot of his are clean and fruit forward that could compete with some New Worlds reds, right? Red and whites, because they're it's warm enough down here to compete with the fruit forwardness of the New World. All right, so let's get into the Pays d'Oc. If you've ever seen this word, that's the big IGP, the Vin de Pays for the South. And so you get a lot of really decent, cheap wine coming out of this area, right? This is the breadbasket. This is their Central Valley, but makes a lot better wines than California's Central Valley, right? Okay. The most famous area is Corbière. And you're usually going to get Grenache and Syrah out of here. Maybe some Mourvedre. And then we got Minevois. We remember that with Jerry B, right? Limoux is where we make a lot of sparkling wines. Cremant, right? So champagne method. And they make it out of Chenin Blanc and a couple other grapes, some native grapes. Okay. I think if you know those, you're in pretty good shape. Maury is right there too. Makes some dessert wines and also makes Shatter that we have. Speak of the devil. How'd you get in there? You crazy. And then Picpoul de Pinet. That's an important one right there too. Picpoul. Even though that area is tiny, it makes a lot of really good, fresh, high acid, mouth-watering white wines, right?
We have one from Gerard Bertrand.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
what would you say that because I was thinking of the same Gerard Bertrand, what would you say that that is mostly similar to if you had to have like a cousin?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like a it's like a crispy. It's crispy, but it's kind of salty.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. It's like got all the brightness of a Sauvignon Blanc, but not quite as over the top with the aromatics. And it's more interesting than a Pinot Grigio. So
Yeah.
I think like on a wine list or something, they would take a good place of a high, like a bright, high acid white, you know?
I always think with like oysters.
Yeah. It kind of reminds you of Muscadet in that way, like that same kind of like fits that category.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
Very good.
is Paydock like that is the whole region,
Yep.
whole thing?
Whole thing. So that's when you're making your cheapies, you can pull from anywhere, right? You know, but mainly like you don't want to, the stuff that doesn't make the cut from one of these other areas, you're probably gonna, you know, you could sell as Paydock.
Okay.
And probably still be pretty good. Okay, yeah, so this one says Corbière is the big one, and Minevois, the two. Terrasses du Larzac and Leclap. We got a little clap from, I shouldn't phrase it that way. We got Leclap from Gerard. Manuel Maury, Vermont de Limoux. And they have a Méthode Ancestral down here in Limoux as well. The old ancient method. Malzac, that's the grape I couldn't remember. That's in the Vermont de Limoux we have from Gerard. Any questions there? And then Provence. This is what the Romans planted first. Perfect climate for grapes. 88% rosé. Based on Grenache makes great rosé because it's a soft, it's a thin-skinned, low tannin red grape, right? So it makes really good rosé. Down here, whereas we had Paydock and Languedoc, we have Mediterranee. I don't know if you need to know it, but that's their big IGP or Bon de Pay. Côte de Provence is 40% of French rosé. That's crazy. And then you got X in Provence, which Beeler makes a little one there. Samine and Bandol. These are usually really expensive for rosé, $30 plus, $30, $40. Which doesn't sound like much, but it's rosé. You only got one shot, you know, you got that year to sell it basically, right? But these are usually made out of almost all Mourvedre and could be more powerful rosés. Okay, there's Bandol right there. And then we got the little island of Corsica, cute little island. And that's where you get the roll. That's Vermentino. And then they have all their crazy island grapes. One of them is pretty much identical to Sangiovese, Grenache, Mourvedre, Syrah, Muscat. And you'll see them labeled Vin de Corse. If you just see that word Corse, just know it's Corsica, right? And that'll help us. That's France.
Whoa.
How do we feel?
This was a like I think not. I don't want to say easier, but then the first bit with Bordeaux was terrifying, and this wasn't as terrifying.
Yeah. The
I
good
think it
news-
helps to split them into 2 days though, because France is a lot.
Yeah, I was about to say that this would have been way too much for one day.
Yeah.
So that's
My brain would have said no. You're full.
no. So I'm glad we did it this way because that we could easily deep dive more into some of the areas if we wanted, but I think that's a pretty good. I think we covered it pretty well. And the good news is, it's I shouldn't say that it's downhill, but that's probably that's the most in depth that it gets is this last 2 sessions, right? And Italy would be almost equal or a little bit, maybe a little. It depends on how much you know about Italy beforehand, but we can do this, right?
Yes.
With enough tasting, get that tactile sensation, we can know it all.
Hang on. I actually have a question. Is everybody on this call coming to the thing tomorrow with Folio's Italian specialist?
I'm not. I'm out of town.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
out of town. Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
Daniele is in town.
Daniele Sporty?
Yeah. And he was doing some market work, but I have to talk to Tiffany after this, but I wanted him to come in and kind of talk about Italy, which would of course be like very helpful for us as a precursor to going into this. And he was supposed to bring some really cool wines. It's seeming like maybe the really cool wine part isn't going to happen. But he is going to be available to talk.
Is there a meeting tomorrow for anybody?
No, there's not. That's the thing. So, but it is just like an extra thing in the libation station. And I thought Tiffany invited you. Let me see that.
So I'm wondering if there's no tasting. I wonder if you could do it.
That's why I'm going to call her. Cause it's like, I'm going to tell her that if we're not going to taste, we should do it virtual.
Yeah.
Cause that's the point. Anyway, but if we do it virtual, I'll record it so that y'all can see. I mean, I just think that hopefully he provides like some insight into Italy that would be applicable to next week. But if it is in person, I mean, of course, everybody is invited. It's at 10:30 in the libation station.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll keep everybody updated on that. That's my next call once we get off of this.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah, just in general, if tomorrow doesn't work out or whatever, if he wanted to join us in a future class, like a review session,
Yeah.
he could do it from, I think he's in New York
He
based.
lives in New York. Yeah. And that could be really good. I mean, if he could just give some time. He is definitely, now they call him their import specialist, but I mean, Italy is his forte.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, but I mean, also, I want for maybe all of us or whoever wants to or is available, if we could meet, and I mean, I could get like a side room somewhere and we can bring in bottles and we can drink and do trivia or whatever y'all want. But like for me, like it would be really helpful. Amanda has said that she's interested and Elliot did.
Yep.
No pressure for everybody that didn't want to join us, but if anybody wants to come, it could be, I mean, I think it would be a really fun thing. And it could be really helpful to just like have a bunch of flashcards and just ask a lot of questions or work through maps or whatever. If y'all want, I don't know. Y'all don't have to hang out with me in your free time. I get it.
No, I think it's good because when you make it in like kind of a situation like that where you're having conversations about it, I mean, there's so many little things that come up, like even like, we joke like little sing-songy things. that shit works.
It does. It helps. It totally helps. Or, just like getting a bunch of wine lists and like looking at them and like, oh, so if you see a bandol on a wine in the French section of a wine list, what does that mean? And it's like, well, now we know. I mean, like, I just think that sometimes kind of working through those things together helps, and it's obviously more fun. So anyway, I'm open to it. I'm happy to do whatever y'all want to do. We can meet somewhere. We can do it at the office. We can do it out. We can do a lunch, a happy hour. I don't care. But let me know what works, and I'm happy to find some suppliers to charge it back to.
Now we're talking.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
right. Now Connor's like, well, can the teacher come?
Yeah. I put on, you see me with the glasses and fake mustache. I'm like, hey guys, I'm studying for the CSW.
Right. Can I join, please?
I'm new here.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Well, anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns? We feel a little bit better?
We're in person next Thursday.
Correct.
Okay, because we talked about this a few weeks ago, I don't have any of the calendar invites anymore.
Oh
So
yeah,
then-
because for whatever reason it kept sending them to you, and I get Elliot has accepted like every 8 minutes for like 4 days.
Yeah.
I would get my phone would be buzzing. I'm like, damn it! It wasn't your fault or my fault. It's Outlook. So I took you off everything. Actually, I didn't mean to. I thought I just silenced your notifications, but apparently Anyway, I'm gonna make that note to re-invite. Stop shunning Elliot. I'm right. And that one is from 9 to 11:30, I think, is what I put on there. Because like I think we don't need quite as much time. Well, I don't know. Maybe I should have done a little bit later. But 9 to 11:30, if you have to leave at exactly 11:30, that's no problem. And we'll have Ship It Baby with us next week as well. For the last part, at least. All right, guys. Thanks so much for the extra session, and I'll see you next week.
Connor.
Hey, Connor.
Have a good day, guys.
Adios.